What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Quite a few things have been going on since I recorded a normal episode last. First of all, my Chicago coin thing has left the building and has moved on to another collector. It was a fun game to own, but I needed the room for additional projects, of which another has entered the building. That's a Williams Superstar. I'm going to get that fixed up here shortly. It's in excellent condition, but I've been working on multi-races as much as possible over the past couple weeks, and I've completed several games, both graphically and with animations, and it's pretty exciting. So I've played a few of them on the actual hardware, and I continue to add new games almost daily. Previously, I had written a bunch of the logic, but now I'm actually doing the graphical work, and for some reason, I find it much more rewarding to play a game when it has graphics. So right now I'm working on Victory Derby and Victory Special, and then I'm going to be switching over most likely to the Universal games, Winner, Photo Finish, and conversion game Old Hilltop. But my plan is to get as many of these complete as possible here in the next week or so, and then start doing the physical modifications to the machine necessary in order to support a menu system and all of the gameplay mechanics, meaning I need to drill the lock bar and put in some buttons. In order to do that, I have to take some very careful measurements, which I will do from Turf King, which sits opposite it in the room. And I also procured a new used replay register to put in for games which award replays versus payout. I had previously purchased a replay register which was period correct. It was, from the right time period, but unfortunately it was missing the coils. No big deal, I thought, but it was also missing the coil stops, which is much more of a big deal. Those are harder to find. So I procured a complete one, and I'll just wire that in. And then I also need to wire in a few extra switches, like a payout limit switch and a payout reset switch, both of which will allow me to gauge when the game has actually paid out, and it pays out in multiples of 2. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do a timing-based system, and that's not going to work very well because, of course, the motor has to spin up that handles the payout because it's motorized. So that's a little tricky if I don't add the switches. So I figure the switches exist, why not take advantage of it? So that means I'll likely need to add another Switch 16 board, but that's not a huge deal. I also have a extra coil or two that need to be driven, and that'll necessitate a new PD16. So I've got a couple new boards in my future for multi-races, but once I have those in place and have the extra features wired up, then the game should be pretty much playable for any of the approximately 60 to 70 games that exist. And that number has increased since the last time. If you've been listening for a while, I thought it was somewhere between 50 and 60, but it looks like now it's between 60 and 70. So I've got my work cut out for me. And for those who are not aware, multi-races is similar to the multi-bingo, which I had previously made. The multi-bingo allows you to play any of 142 domestically produced bingo pinball machines in one cabinet with the appropriate rules and so forth, and the original physical play fields. Multi-races is going to be very similar. The difference is that all the games are one-ball horse race games. These were made from approximately 1937 to 1952, and they were made by a few different companies, most notably Bally. So this is, of the 60 to 70, I'd say well over 3/4 of them are going to be Bally games. Bally was just a prodigious producer of these things. And I understand why. They made a lot of money. This is before the bingos. And the bingos, of course, also made a lot of money, but are quite a different animal. With the one-ball horse race games, you spend a lot of time coining up, and once you've got the game where you want it to be, then you plunge, and hopefully you've aimed, and you're relatively good at nudging, because you have to knock it into one of approximately 28 or 30 holes, and it takes some skill to win. So I'm looking forward to having all these games playable. It was a blast. I loaded it up on Sunday and fired up Turf King, since it sits opposite the actual Turf King game in my game room, and played on that, and it was great. The animations and portioning are not accurate yet, but they are animating and they are portioning, so it is an exciting time. So that's what's been going on with me. I'm also diligently working on Coin-Op Carnival number 2, and for those who are interested in Coin-Op Carnival and are attending the Southern Fried Game Room Expo this coming weekend, I've got good news. Brent and Whitney from the Broken Token Classic Arcade and Pinball podcast will be at SFGE with a small selection of books, and you're more than welcome to pick one up there if you haven't picked one up yet and would like to. Also, the Coin-Op Carnival 2019 tour rolls on, and the next stop is with Ryan at San Diego Comic-Con, where he's giving a presentation this coming Friday. Not this week, but the following week, the 19th. So, go out, check out that presentation, and let me know what you think. The next stop is coming up sooner than you think, August the 3rd, and this will be both Ryan and I together in Houston. And if you're in the area, please come check it out. It's a planetarium presentation similar to the one that Ryan gave in Michigan, with a view of Wayne Nines in his home, in his garage, with his Spirit of 76, which has since been donated to the Pacific Pinball Museum. This is a special treat, and I'm excited to see how this goes. And this is the first time that we've given this presentation together, so I'm looking forward to that experience. Today's featured game is 1939's Klick by Genco. Klick is, at first glance, an uninspired, unappealing looking game. The artwork is attractive enough, but there's not much game there. If you look, there are 4 bumpers and there are 6 rollovers, and that's it. There's a lot of open space on the playfield. But what makes this an appealing game is the back box and the interaction between the back box and the playfield. You have what looks like a clock, but there are only 8 digits on its face. And there are a bunch of circles which surround this clock face. The deal is, for every bumper hit, and I assume every rollover hit, this clock face moves 1 step. And if the indicator remains in front of a number for an unspecified period of time, they must have some kind of delay mechanism in there, then the number on the clock face lights up. And if you get 3 numbers on the clock face lit up in a row, then you win. This must be extremely challenging to do, just looking at it, but I bet it would be an awful lot of fun to try to do it. And the reason is because that playfield is so straightforward. There's not a lot there, but the springs which are mounted on either side and the amount of room that you have to maneuver the ball by moving the table is enough that I think there's plenty of repeat play appeal. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS-1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to me on iTunes or Apple Podcasts now, Stitcher, via Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast, and on Twitter, yet again, at Bingo Podcast. Or you can listen to me on my website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.